Hey TV fans, Bored now, back with you. On this video I will be talking about Season 1 Episode 2 of Wolfpack. The episode is called Two Bitten, Two Born. Full spoilers from the start of this review as always. About on par with the first episode really. It was a bit messier I think because that was a setup episode and it was quite a simple plot. Really, it's Harlem who's in denial, a bit like Blake is with the other pair, and he's very cynical about whether he actually believes them, whether he actually believes that Emirate shows them his scar, it's not there, and there's a whole thing. It's almost like they've just reversed it. So in this case with the brother and sister, it's like it's Harlem who's like the cynical one and the one who's like the non-believer, or he's just showing this stuff out. I expected more of Sarah Michelle Gellar in this episode. I think we got roughly about the same amount of her. Maybe a little bit more just because her scenes were a bit longer. But there's a couple of smart moments of dialogue which I enjoyed. So we start with in the woods with them and Blake freaking out, I think not wanting to believe what is happening to her and sort of processing it in a different way to Emirate. And she starts running off and they chase after her and she's running towards the fire. That seems to be her instinct. And that's when they bump into the fire marshal lady who we saw in the last episode, who like knows the twins and knows the father. And this is where Blake has a good line. Maybe the line of the episode is when they start coming up with cover stories. Like they say how about they know each other from school, which is revealed later to be a lie. Like, they do know each other. They do go to the same school, but it's a lie that they're friends. That's what they're saying. They're friends, and that's why they were just hanging out in the woods. And I like when they cut to Blake, and Blake's, I just can't lie, as well as them, which is really funny. And the fire marshal's like, yeah, I like you. And she ends up taking them all home. And that's when they start having conversations with each other back and forth. And once again, they hit you really hard with it's the full moon. They're being affected by all this. And we just see certain stuff through the night with Blake and with Emirate. And some of this stuff I like more than other stuff. We see Blake have a reaction in the mirror. We see her eyes glow when she goes to bed. Definitely the stuff with Blake and Emma, it is better than the twin stuff at the moment. It's the more interesting stuff. One thing I liked is how both barricade their rooms before they go back to sleep. And we have this thing of then they both sleep in a day, basically, because of their restless night. They both don't get out of bed the next day. More with Blake and her brother. Some of the stuff with the twins is quite rough. We get a really random scene where Luna has a vision of a horse bursting through her door. Thing has drawn all sorts of animals. So that's just that. But once again, that's quite a clunky CGI style moment. We get stuff with Harlem at the gym where he's just like this. We see him fantasizing about like getting with one of like the other guys at the gym who he's attracted to, which is fine, but it's just done in a very over the top type way, I guess, because it's in his head. And it's just making this link between the wolf side of him coming out and like teenage hormones. It flashback in the woods with Garrett, the father, or the adopted father of the twins. And that's, I say weird, it's weird just because we see him still like struggling with the fire, and we see then he has a flashback. He got the twins, like when he adopted and just found them in the woods, and there's the whole thing about them being cubs, but we see one of them with human hands, so I guess they're just saying that they were like werewolves from birth and they were like half and half almost. But that's just like a pointless flashback, just because we already knew that from the first episode. We already had that information. They find him, the authorities find him in the woods as well, like the friend. And this is where I thought, well, they're going to try and build this up and have other characters like the four main ones that they can sort of see more than one season in this, or they might expand on the whole universe. And in the end, they don't go with that. Like, Connor is dead by the end of the episode, which I'm happy about. Not in a malicious way, but I'm just happy because it feels like the right choice, so that you don't have like too many characters who are werewolves, too many characters who become the main sort of protagonist. Was bitten by some animal in the woods, and it felt like it wasn't a dog, it felt like a wild animal. It looked at his wound, it seemed not to be a dog, or then it just seemed like a dog bite wound. Tell me how you get on with the doctor, which I like. That's a good character moment for Emirate. So he goes off to the doctor, and they keep him in because he's having like a nervous reaction. And then he gets one of those mystery phone calls, like warning him, the same as Emirate has, and the same that Blake has. Blake has one in this episode as well, so it's a sign then anyone who gets turned into a werewolf has them. So Connor freaks out and he calls Emirate at a crucial moment, by the way. He's about to get his first kiss with Blake, so it seems. We see more of how they have a connection in this episode, how they appear to each other in dreams. It seems quite cheesy because it's very much teen romance drama, and she, like, he just says, "You're so perfect." And like it's an alright scene in itself because they have decent chemistry, but it's one of those where they're using like them being werewolves as like a metaphor for like teenage angst, teenage hormones type. From Connor saying, "You need to come and help me," and it's because a creature is after him. You get a trace sequence, and then you get this bit where Connor's trying to escape through the fence and something is grabbing onto his ankle, but you can't really see what. And that's how he gets caught. The werewolf comes out of nowhere and kills him. And the end of the episode is a nice little hook because, like, the authorities, like Sarah Michelle Gellar's Christine Ramsey and the police in general, they catch up to all four of the teens at the hospital and decide they're going to bring them in for more questions. And the very end of the episode is Ramsey catching Emirate like outside where Connor has been killed, and he's got hold of his, like, this rag which he had on his leg. And line is Ramsey saying, "We've got some more questions for you, Emirate," and it looks like you've got some questions of your own. So that's a decent hook for episode 3, and it looks like they're all going to take them in for questions. So that could be quite promising. Just on the Ramsey stuff in this episode, because she interviews Emirate, a good cop, bad cop type thing almost, where, like, she's very subtle in the way she deals with him. Like, you can tell she's smart and she's not someone who's gonna, like, be dispersuaded by him if she suspects him, but she's the more sensitive, whereas the cop is kind of a hard ass, and he starts saying, I've been in this job a long time, I'm good at spotting liars, and it looks to me like you're not a good liar. And there's actually like a good gag after that where he asks him the question about where he went to the previous night, and Emmerett's like, well, I was just with a friend. And he's like, that sounds like a lie to me. It's like the first thing he literally says is like, that sounds like a lie to me. Ramsey has this theory that it could be Austin, who was the bully guy on the bus. So she puts that out there, goes to interview Blake, and quite quickly, like, Blake has a line back to her, which is, I think, her being quite defensive, but it's sort of weird then we cut to another scene and we don't go back to that. I can only think maybe Blake says, no, I don't want to talk to you, and then that's it, because they can't really force her unless they've got, like, a warrant or they've got some reason to, like, pursue like an inquiry. Scenes again, which feels like it was a bit pointless, like, because they picked Blake up at the hospital later, and you're gonna have them question her next week, and quite a nice end to the episode, a decent hook for next week. But that's episode 2. It was a little bit up and down, a little bit rough, probably a bit weaker than episode 1, I think, but still with some fun stuff thrown in. Still, I think, watchable enough. Let me know your thoughts on episode 2 in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media, and keep watching TV. I'll see you guys again soon.